And are you refreshed?
Yes.
Good. Now what? All the way back?
Okay, my question has to do with having in the vortex experiences and at the same time having an out of the vortex experience. And I want to understand that energy so that I can stay in the vortex.
Well, you're not having both experiences at the same time, but we know what you mean. You're in, then you're out. Or you're in, then you're out. And so the key is to notice what subject keeps throwing you out and then stay off of it.
Okay. Okay.
But there's a tendency to believe, well, no, I need to stay on this subject because it's important. And we say nothing's important if it throws you out of the vortex. That you have to reorient your priorities to begin saying being in the vortex is what's important, not fixing some problem or solving something. So that's pretty clear, isn't it? Easy to understand, sometimes hard to let go of those vortex killing thoughts, but
it's a good exercise.
It is, it's everything, because eventually you'll be able to stay in the vortex relative to all subjects, and that's when you've mastered unconditional love, and that's when you'll be completely free, because the only thing that binds you ever is resistant thoughts.
Okay.
There's a tendency to be problem oriented, and we say, well, when the problem's coming into focus, the solution is too. But if you so then logic says, well, if I'm not looking at the problem, if I'm looking for the solution, then I should be able to stay in the vortex. And we say, in time. But if you attempt to find the solution to a really active problem, every time you look for the solution to a really active problem, the vortex will spit you out. Now, it doesn't seem fair, does it? I'm trying to solve this problem, but problem is the operative word. And so what we encourage is that you just start noticing all the solutions to previous problems. That's a good bridge. Well, that used to be a problem, and now I've only got this solution. And that was a problem, and now I only got this solution. So as you show yourself how many solutions you now are experiencing, that can be a bridge to expecting this to be a solution.
Okay, so an example that I would like to use is I was living away and returning to my home, and I had pre-paved, and I saw myself drinking my coffee and wandering around, and then shortly before I was to return to my home, it wasn't possible. There were things that came up. So I was afforded other places to live that were not this place, but they were temporary and comfortable and very nice. And so I tried to focus on that, well, I do have this option and I have this option. But the energy over here was really strong in terms of negative energy.
Well, what you're describing, there's another thing that you're describing, that we want these days that we are together to shine a spotlight on this and move it to a new place for you, for everyone really. And that is, there's a bit of a misunderstanding about the best use of the vortex, because from what you just said, first of all, you're working hard, you're kind of overthinking things. It's like trying to manage your life too directly. Like, I thought I was visualizing where I wanted to be, and it ended up okay, it just didn't end up exactly as I want it to be. And we want you to use the vortex in a more general way, until eventually you come to discover that everything you want can be yours and can be precisely yours. But what this subject is about, we've been talking about it, we're going to drive it home in a stronger way here. So I want to be over there, but I'm over here. I want to be over there in that house that I really want to be on, but I'm over here in this house. So I'm going to buy some affirmation cards about how great that house is. And I'm just going to practice the greatness of that house over there where I'm not until I have to be over there. So these cards have been especially written for me. Abraham wrote them for me, especially for me. Oh, they're illustrated already too. And I deserve to be in that house. That's the house where I belong. I've created that house, and that house is there for me, and no one else should be in it. I should.
And I had set that up ahead of time because I was living over there.
It really should be my house because I've been working on it for so long.
Yeah, I can see how So how could it be my house?
So what happens is that in your awareness of something not being the way you want it to be, the more you try to demand it from the universe, the more, without meaning to, you practice the out of the vortex vibration. It has sort of a backlash that for years we've been calling trying too hard or being too specific, because when you ask of yourself how, where, when, who, before you have the answers to those questions, it just agitates rather than soothes. So we've been playing with the affirmation cards like that, saying that once you're in the vortex making those statements, then those statements stick and they feel good. So the whole key that we're wanting to dramatize in a way that you can really feel it is, if statements about something you want aren't fun and aren't soothing and aren't like personal entertainment, then don't do it, because you're working against yourself rather than toward what you want. Does that make sense? So we've been saying for a while, this is the law-based statement that we've coined some time ago, and now we're going to apply it specifically to the vortex. It's easier to stay in the vortex when you're general than when you're specific. In other words, to get in and talk about your general well-being, the vortex won't spit you out usually. But when you talk about specific well-being that hasn't come to fruition yet, over which you are pretty irritated, now the vortex will spit you out. And so every time you go, it spits you out. And every time you bring it up, it spits you out, because you're approaching it in a way that the vortex can't sustain it. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So the way you solve it is by speaking more generally, which you immediately began doing. Well, I'm living in a fine place, and while it's not my first choice, I'm comfortable enough, and things are working out for me, and things are getting better and better. And you see, here's what you know that we think is causing you to rush it a little bit. A lot of you do this. To be in the vortex and be really specific, and to be able to stay in the vortex and be really specific about what you want, and then to watch the universe deliver the goods precisely as you have been asking, is such a feeling of empowerment and worthy. In other words, when the universe yields to you precisely what you want, so that you are acknowledging the timing and the whatting and the wearing and the winning, and you just feel so blessed, but even more you feel so creative, but even more you feel so powerful, but even more you feel so the way you're supposed to feel. It's just the highest of high. And so there's a temptation to get more specific than you're able to vibrationally sustain. So the rule of thumb with the vortex is be general until you're solid in there, and then get specific. So the way we would use the vortex, we would use general statements to get in, and then we would test the vortex. We would test our relationship with it. We'd get a little more specific, and it would spit us out, and we'd say, okay, next time I get in, I'm not going to be that specific. Because clearly when I get that specific, I activate where I am on the stick. And where I am on the stick must not be. I must not have practiced my overall well-being enough to bring this subject up. Now, that makes sense, doesn't it? I'm going to bring my average up by focusing on the things that I know I feel well-being about. So you just keep improving your average on all subjects by staying in the vortex and basking and acknowledging and crowing and feeling proud, and you just be as general as you can be. And before you know it, then you bring that specific in, and this time, I'm specific on a subject that usually throws me out. I must have moved my vibration on this subject a little bit. Because we know what you're all reaching for. It was a question that a lot of you used to ask before we started cutting you off and being so mean to you. And the question was, well, how specific should I be? And we said, be as specific as you can be and still feel good. And today we're saying, be as specific as you can be and stay in the vortex. Because there is no award for the one who gets the most specific the fastest. That's not what the prize is. The prize is the one who can feel the best, the longest, using anything that you can think of as your reason to feel good. And the reason that we want you to get that is because we understand how many of you have related. So you think it's like this. You think, well, if I want a car, then I have to have in the vortex thoughts about a car in order to get a car. If I want a lover, then I have to have in the vortex thoughts about a lover in order to get a lover. And we say, it doesn't work like that. You didn't have a car, so you asked for a car, and you didn't have a lover, so you asked for a lover, and you didn't like that lover, so you asked for a better lover, and that one ran away, so you asked for one that'd stay. In other words, you've been building this vortex, and so you've got all these things you've been asking for. Now use any excuse in the world just to get in there where all that stuff is. You don't have to get in and stay in on the subject. You just have to stay in long enough that the vortex can raise your vibrational average on every subject that matters to you that's in the vortex. So whatever it takes to stay in there longer, we recommend lobotomy. We don't really, because then when all the things that you ask for before your lobotomy come to fruition, it won't be as meaningful to you because you won't remember you wanted them. That feeling of empowerment wouldn't be there. We recommend meditation. We recommend deep breathing. We recommend general statements of well-being. We recommend walking, running. We recommend anything that puts you in the zone. We recommend sitting in front of a waterfall and just mindlessly watching it. We recommend laying in the grass and watching the birds flying overhead. We recommend looking out of your window in a beautiful place like this and watching the clouds floating around even below you. In other words, anything that gives you that feeling of life is good is practicing being in the vortex. We recommend a massage. We recommend getting someone to tickle your foot if you like it. We recommend anything. We recommend going to sporting events if it thrills you. We recommend going to concerts if it thrills you. We recommend seeking out anything that you know, those highs that you feel, those feelings of well-being. We really recommend getting in your automobile and driving down the beautiful highways of this nation. In other words, there are so many things that put you easily in the vortex. Do more of them. You have no price to pay. There's nothing that you should be doing that you're not doing. Your work is to be in the vortex where you and everything you want is. That's your work. That's what you're about, you see. And the longer you hang around in there, the more your vortex will raise your vibrational average on every subject that's in the vortex until everything begins manifesting, and then you begin appreciating yourself. Good enough?
Excellent.